Hello everybody, welcome to the I Am IT Geek YouTube channel. My name is Shabazz Dar, and as ever, I am the IT Geek. Welcome back. We are on the home stretch of the SE200 Microsoft Security Operations Analyst exam series. So you literally just finished Learning Path 6, and so moving on to Learning Path 7 and 8. So I think I've got 3 episodes of Learning Path 7 and 2 in Learning Path 8. So going to cover, still got a lot more content to cover with Sentinel. As I think if you go all the way back to the introduction, Microsoft Sentinel is a big chunk of this exam, 50 to 55%, I think. So very important that we go through this. So a bit of a longer theory episode today because there's quite a bit to cover. And for those, just to update kind of everybody, obviously my Australian visa is still delayed. When I say delayed, it's just taking longer than we expected. I have left Netcompany, and I'm kind of on a sabbatical at the moment, self-imposed, just having a bit of time to rest up mentally and physically. And I'm just kind of enjoying not having to worry about work, if honest. So I'm going to be doing a lot more content. Got some nerdier content coming up, and I've got some more book reviews as well after this series. And I'll announce my next exam series after that. So, and without further ado, let's get started with this episode. So my socials as normal, you don't need to worry about them. They're all in my description. So don't worry about those. So this is the start of Learning Path 7. This is episode 1 in Learning Path 7, as I mentioned. So we're going to start, a couple of topics we're going to cover. So first of all, we're going to talk about threat detection with Microsoft Sentinel Analytics, automation in Microsoft Sentinel. We'll then cover threat response with Microsoft Sentinel Playbooks. We'll talk about security incident management with Microsoft Sentinel. Then move on to entity behavioral analytics in Microsoft Sentinel. So that's not the end of this learning path yet. We've got data normalization in Microsoft Sentinel to go through, query, visualize, and monitoring data in Microsoft Sentinel to go through, and then we're going to finish off with managing content in Microsoft Sentinel. So what are we going to cover in this episode? So first of all, we're going to talk about threat detection in Microsoft Sentinel Analytics. We're going to talk about automation in Microsoft Sentinel. Finish off with threat response in Microsoft Sentinel Playbooks, and we're going to do a demo of creating some workbooks in Microsoft Sentinel. So let's start off with talking about threat detection in Microsoft Sentinel Analytics. So let's just try and explain the analytics element of Microsoft Sentinel. A bit of an overview first of all. So it's analytics analysis data from various sources, and it identifies correlations and anomalies. By using the analytics rules, you can trigger alerts, which obviously go to your IT team or your SecOps team. And these are based on the attack techniques that are used by known malicious attackers. You can also set up these rules to help you ensure your SOC is alerted, as I mentioned, to any potential sort of security incidents in your environment and make sure they sort of look at those and deal with those in a timely fashion. Common analytic use cases we've got include sort of identification of compromised accounts, sort of user behavior analysis, and this detects potential suspicious patterns. Also, network traffic analysis as well, and this kind of locates trends that indicate any potential attacks that are going to happen or are happening. Also, detection of data exfiltration by attackers as well. You know, people trying to get to your data and get that export that data out. And finally, detection of insider threats. You know, it's not always just external. Inside threats as well are quite common and need to be looked at and analysed. So let's look at the type of threat analytics. So Microsoft Security, obviously. You've got Fusion analytical rules. So these are currently, some of these are in preview at the moment. You've got machine learning or ML behavior analytics rules as well. You've got threat intelligent rules. You've got anomaly rules, scheduled rules, and finally near real-time or NRT analytical rules. And again, these are currently in preview. So look at create an analytics rule from a template. The analytics section in the Microsoft Sentinel platform, it contains like rule templates that are sort of preloaded from Microsoft Sentinel GitHub repository. And you can use these templates to create your rules to detect those security threats that we kind of mentioned in the previous slide. Let's talk about the sort of analytic rule wizard. So when you're creating a custom rule from your scheduled sort of rule query, type. It provides you with the highest level of customization. You can define your own KQL code, sort of set schedules to run the alerts, or even provide sort of an automated action by associating Microsoft Sentinel Playbook. And we are going to look at Playbooks as well in this learning path. Talk about managing those analytical rules for a minute. So to adjust the sort of noise and filter the more sort of important threats that can be detected, you should manage these analytical rules on a sort of ongoing basis. So it's not just kind of once you've done it, just leave it and let it do its thing. You've got to keep on managing them and keep on taking a look at them. And this is going to help ensure that your rules remain useful and also obviously efficient in sort of detecting any potential security threats and making sure they don't sort of get lost in that noise and you know get missed. So let's move on to talk about automation in Microsoft Sentinel. So let's look at some of those options. So you've obviously got the automation rules. So security orchestration, automation, and response, or SOAR. It's essentially automating any recurring and predictable enrichment, response, and remediation tasks that are the responsibility of your sort of SOC, your Security Operations Center. So first of all, we have automation rules, and these allow you to centrally sort of manage the automation incident handling. We then have playbooks, which I've already mentioned. And a playbook is sort of a collection of sort of response remediation actions and logic that can be run in Microsoft Sentinel as a sort of scheduled routine. Look at how to create one of these automation rules. First of all, you've got to changing the status of the incident. You've got to then change the severity of an incident. You assign an incident to its owner, obviously normally someone in your SOC. Then add a tag to that incident to make sure you filter and search for it easier. So let's look at threat response of Microsoft Sentinel Playbook specifically. So this is the last topic before we move on to the demo. So let's speak about the SOAR capabilities. So Microsoft Sentinel provides a wide variety of playbooks and connectors for sort of security orchestration, automation, and response, or SOAR. So if you look at that, we've got sort of a few component types there, playbook templates, we've got Zero Logic Apps, Managed Connector. We're going to look at Managed Connectors later on. You've also got Zero Logic Apps, Custom Connector. So with the Playbooks template, its purpose is to sort of automate workflow. The Zero Logic Apps Managed Connectors purpose is to build blocks for creating playbooks, and the custom connector for Azure Logic Apps is again purpose similar, sort of building blocks for creating playbooks as well. The use case for playbook templates is to deploy ready-made playbooks that you can respond to threats automatically. So again, automating a lot of that sort of capability. The purpose of the Azure Logic Apps Managed Connector is to communicate with hundreds of both Microsoft and non-Microsoft services. And then again, with the custom connector for Azure Logic App, you might want to communicate with services that are not available as sort of pre-built connectors. So the custom connector will address this and allow you to sort of create more custom connector sort of triggers and actions as well. So I just want to talk about playbooks in a bit more detail and explain them a little bit. So we've got the sort of Microsoft Sentinel as a SIAM or SOAR solution. As I mentioned, this is a security orchestration, automation, and response SOAR solution. You can use it in Microsoft Sentinel, and obviously we've got Microsoft Sentinel playbooks, and these are security playbooks that are collections of procedures based on, and as we saw before, Azure Logic Apps, both custom and a managed connector, and these run in response to alert. We've obviously got the obviously Azure Logic Apps, so these obviously three things make up the playbooks. Azure Logic Apps is like cloud service that automates operation of your business processes. We've got that connector that we mentioned, either a manager or custom one, and this is a component that provides that interface for the service and integrates it with Sentinel. Integrates your playbooks with Sentinel. Then playbooks also has something called triggers and actions, and triggers are an event that occurs when a specific set of conditions are met or satisfied. An action is an operation that performs a task essentially. And finally, just to explain Sentinel playbooks, you've got that Sentinel Logic App connector as well. And this is using Microsoft Sentinel Logic App connector to integrate with the playbooks as well and Logic Apps. So, talk about creating a playbook. The Logic App Designer provides a design canvas that you use to add a trigger, an action to your workflow. And this is you can see that's an example of using Microsoft Sentinel Logic Apps connector as well. So let's move on to the demo now. So we're going to jump into my Azure portal. And I believe the demo is going to be around. Let me double check quickly. The demo is going to be on creating workbooks. So let's get over to the portal. Welcome back. Here we are back in the Azure portal. We want to go to Microsoft Sentinel to start with, and this is our sort of workspace we created in one of the other learning paths. So click on Workbooks, and click on Templates here. We obviously see we've got 26 templates already. I want to click on Azure Activity, for example, and we want to look at View Template here. And this tells us all the information of any sort of any activity around it. Obviously, I've not kind of actively been using it. So, but you can see sort of activities over time or the top 10 active resource groups as well. But in my case, again, I've not really done much in it. I've not really done much in this. But you can change the sort of time range here. So the default's obviously 7 days. So if we click back into sort of workbooks, we're going to stay on the templates tab here. We can sort of view all the other different options that we've got. What we want to do here, we're not got any existing workbooks, so we actually want to create one. So let's click on Add Workbook, click on Edit, and here you can see at the bottom we can add either a sort of text or we can add parameters, we can add links and tabs, add a query, add a metric, or add a group. So clicking the Edit button, we've got sort of the first paragraph of this workbook. Click Edit there. And here we've got the type in what you want really. So I'm just going to type in my workbook. And again, you can add whatever you can add a text from here, add parameters, add links and tabs, add a query, add a metric, add a group. Got more things here you can do. You can move it up and down, you can clone it, you can remove it. Again, the style, you can do different styles for your workbook as well if you want. Got an advanced editor you can use, which is obviously revolved around JSON. We go back to the settings here, just add a query. And again, you've got samples here. You can do change your data sources, analytics, and when you are actually finally done with that, you can do done editing, and then you can save that as well. Save it as so let's see, 200 demo, whatever sort of resource group or subscription you want, and then whatever sort of location. I'm going to click my UK West if I can find it. Or UK South or UK West, whichever one. So click on there, and we can just apply that. Okay, so again, plenty of things you can do to update your or save it, and lots of different parameters you can put. I would recommend having a play with that yourself and putting some parameters in, putting like some actions in and stuff like that, just so you kind of get used to creating the workbooks and the process involved. So yeah, hopefully, good start to covered a lot of content in that sort of first episode of Learning Path 7. And again, I've got some really interesting links. I've got the lab link for the GitHub repository in my description. Obviously, all my socials. There's a link as well to Victor and Victor Edberg and Rue Campbell's book around Microsoft Defender, Microsoft 365 Defender. Definitely recommend purchasing it. It will help you with the exam, but it's also a very good book. I've got a review of it coming up in about next week or a week after, I think. And also, I've got a link to the Measure Up SE200 practice exams. I'll definitely recommend you purchase that to help with your practicing and with your preparation. So, thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.